Hello, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter here with more fun with foundation paper piecing. This time we're going to tackle a swan design. Now this particular block is going to require 4 sections to come together. So I've already pre-cut my foundation paper with all the pattern pieces printed on it. And I've also cut out all of the pieces of fabric using the templates that you can get together with the printable download from my website gentlemancrafter.com. That download provides you with a cutting list for all the different colours, the stencils, the templates themselves, and the pattern as well. So definitely worth heading over there to download that, especially if you're going to try this yourself. Okay, now the first couple of bits are teeny tiny, so we're going to take our time trying to make sure that they get in place correctly. One of them is going to be the beak of the swan, and the other is going to be the other two in fact are going to be the background. So remember, we're working on the back of the pattern, and the first piece gets positioned within that red dotted outline. Now sadly this actually completely obliterates the next piece, so you will need to be kind of eyeballing where to position this, but you should be able to get it right based on its shape and the available sides to position. I am going to pin it. I'll probably only be able to get one pin in, bearing in mind its size, and then we're just going to stitch on that very short line between those two sections. Remember, we are using a short stitch spacing. It's set to 1.6 on my machine, and of course we are starting at the beginning, finishing at the end, doing a tack or reverse stitch to secure it in place, and of course stitching on the black dashed line, not either side of it. So we'll take the pin out and see if we managed to get this in the right place, and it looks like we did. So that's good news, especially as it's our first line. I'm pressing with an iron, probably a bit too big given the sizes, but hey, you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound. Next up, I'm going to use a piece of card and line it up between on the line that separates the next section from the two that I've just stitched. Use my add a quarter ruler to trim away any excess threads or pieces. There weren't actually that many thanks to the templates. And then I'm going to position the third piece for this section and pin it in place as usual and stitch. If you are following along with this series, we're up to number 30. There are 29 others available to go through, so if you want something a little less fussy, do feel free to head back and have a look what's available. Of course, if you're going to be making some of these blocks, then do feel free to come along to Facebook and join the group where we're sharing what we make, whether that's just a single block or whether that's a full project or a larger project. Now that we've got the third piece in place, we're going to fold that back and press it in place. And you can see there the beak has formed. Next up, I'm going to trim this block back to the solid outline of the pattern, and that will trim away any of the excess pieces that we don't want. So being at number 30 means that we're well over halfway through the year and well over halfway through the series. Probably a good time to let me know if you are enjoying this and whether I should carry it on or do something different in 2023. I know, ridiculous that I'm already thinking about that, but it is almost September, so just 3 months to go for this year. Been trying to think back over the last 20 years since the year 2000 and think what's happened. Quite a lot, as you can imagine. I left my job, I toured in a motorhome, toured the entire country, did workshops around the country, moved to Scotland, moved across Scotland, now live in the middle of a farmer's field, in a building of course, not just literally in the middle of a farmer's field. I'm not that mad. Yeah, a lot has happened. I'm fairly sure I must have been to Australia in the last 20 years as well, and America. So, phew, it's been a busy old time. Anyway, random waffle. So I'm getting the next piece in here. Now watch out for this section. It is a tad tricky, because the shapes are very uneven, and the actual block itself, or the section of the block itself, is quite uneven as well. So just take your time, think about it, and try and get things in place before you commit to stitching. I'm not sure why the sewing area is actually looking a bit dark on one of the on one of the cameras, and very light on the other. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry if it confuses the heck out of you. It really is me right now, but I'm not entirely sure there's much I can do about it for this particular video. But I will certainly take a look at what buttons I must have accidentally pressed to cause that chaos. People do think I'm a bit of a technical whiz because I can do certain things on a computer, but believe me, if I can mess it up, I will. Not deliberately, just through pure luck. Sure, was that lucky on the lottery? Oh, that reminds me, I've got to check my ticket. Where did I put the ticket? Oh, don't tell me I've thrown it in the bin, thinking I haven't won, and I could have. Oh well, anyway. It's only £74 million. I mean, who needs that, right? Oh. Okay, on with the third section. Pinning in place. Pinning is my preferred method. There's other methods, so if you don't like pinning, try having a look around the internet or YouTube or any other place you can think of, really. Down your local sewing centre if you've got one. At the haberdashery. Okay, so we're still working through pieces number by number, letter by letter, but they're actually spread across the 4 different sections, if you see what I mean. So we start at A1 on section 1 and work our way through. Each section is a different letter, and then there's like a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 4 or whatever on each of those. Trimming away the excess as normal up to the solid line, not beyond it, otherwise you lose some of your seam allowance. I'll tell you what I might think of doing for next year is bigger blocks, so we need less of them and the pieces aren't so fiddly. What do you think to that? That would mean you could do larger projects quicker as well. Maybe even I should do a project every quarter. Different blocks can build up to a project, a cushion cover at the end of 3 months or something. Ooh, so many ideas. So little time. And so many bills. Ooh, dear. Okay, we're on to the third section. Luckily, the last section, D, is just one piece anyway, so once we get past this one, we'll be fine. Now, spoiler alert, I actually messed this up. I didn't get the right side lined up correctly with the previous piece. And you can see me thinking about it here, thinking really hard. But I committed, I went for it. Stand by to see how that went. I wonder if I've got a drum roll sound effect somewhere in this software. I don't think so. Okay, so unpinning, and then the realization that I stuffed up. Oh. Now, I'm basically flipping it backwards and forwards to see if I can get away with it. And I eventually decided that I could, because it's covering the section that I wanted it to cover. There's still enough to form a seam allowance around that section. So, stuff it. Ain't nobody got time for unpicking unless it's not going to work at all. Now, because of the extra bit that was caused by that, I decided I did have to use my add a quarter ruler to trim it back. I mean, it's not so bad, but it's definitely not a straight edge. So, choppy choppy, nobody's none the wiser. There we go, nice straight edge. And for the next piece, stitch it on and whistle like nothing ever happened. Oh. If you do this at home with any of the sections on any of the pieces, just think, does it cover the section that I need it to? And is there enough fabric beyond that to give me my seam allowance? If it does, and if there is, just go with it. Don't get frustrated. Stay mellow. And there we go, folding back. See? You can't tell. Pressing that in place. And then of course, trimming back to the solid edges. Just using a basic quilting ruler here. It's actually a square one, but you could use a smaller one if you've got one. And then a mini rotary trimmer, so 28mm rotary trimmer. You don't necessarily need anything bigger, but if that's what you've got, go with it. No need to go shopping. I think I heard all of the boos there. All of the jeering. Listen, if you want to go shopping, you go shopping. Oh, I've just thrown away the piece. I need to go shopping for some supplies. Actually, I need a lot of card. I think I might have to try and find a wholesaler. Okay, like I said, the last block is one piece. Now, I mean, stitch or not stitch, it's your choice. I tend to, when I've just got one piece on a section, I tend to just stitch a line down within the seam allowance, not on it, just within it. Just to hold the piece of fabric in place while I'm attaching it to the rest of the sections. It's up to you. If you just want to pin it, that's fine too. Still does need trimming back though. I can smell my slow cooker cooking the stew. Getting hungry now. Okay, that's our 4 sections complete. Now we need to join them together. So let's work this out. That's the body and that's the neck. Thought they went like that, but I don't think they do. And then there's the beak. So where does that go? Turns out I'd got the neck the wrong way round. So there we go. Much better. So what we'll do is we'll join the body to the neck first, then the neck to the beak, and then basically just fill in the ground with the stripy fabric at the end. So first job is neck to body or body to neck, whichever way round your mind puts that. Slightly tricky because of the angle to get this right, but try your best because it will sort of slightly offset. And how do I know that? Spoiler alert, because that's what I'm about to do. Apparently people like it when I stuff up because it makes me normal. I'm not perfect. Definitely not. But mistakes are coverable. They are learning experiences. And at the end of the day, if you're crafting for your own pleasure, you've only yourself to answer to. There we go. Like I said, it's just slightly off, but because we'll be joining things to both sides where it's slightly off, it don't matter. So now the beak to the neck, that will go that way. I'm quite pleased that I actually accidentally got a flower where the eye will be. Now, as it is offset slightly, I'm still working with the original outline. So I'm trying to keep things sort of still working. I'm not trying to put that at an angle. I still want right angle joins. I wonder what I'll have with my stew. I might just have some basic baby new potatoes. Can you smell it from here? It's delicious. Okay, we're opening out and we're pressing. First with the finger pressing tool, like a Teflon presser or something like that, just to get the relevant bits on each side. And then pressing that open. The previous seam, by the way, I actually pressed all of it to one side. And the only reason I did that actually was because that was the way the fabric was falling. So I went with it. And then our last section is going on. Just try and get that as centrally as you can. There might be a tiny smidge either side. It's not a problem. And then we're stitching down the seam allowance. Always stitching on it, not either side. Tack stitch or reverse stitch at the start and end. And we're still using a short stitch spacing even on the seam allowance, on the joining of the sections. This basically perforates the paper and helps us get the paper off after we've stitched things together. Okay, taking away the pins for the final time, and there is our block. Now again, it's up to you if you press that seam open or to the side. Might actually work better pressing it open if you're going to do a row of these side by side. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to give the video a thumbs up.